So iOS 16 and Android 13 are both in beta formats right now, and I didn't want to go ahead and kind of compare older Android 13 and an older iPhone, maybe that aren't comparable. But these two, the iPhone 11 and Pixel 5, are kind of similar. They kind of came out around the same time within a year of each other, and they're both rocking betas right now. Now, Android 13 has been in a beta a little bit longer than iOS 16. This one just came out yesterday. So I'll definitely tell you is Android 13 has the potential of being a little bit more stable over time, at least for right now. It's been in a developer beta and official betas for a little bit of time, and it's still not that great in terms of stability standpoint, but it has gotten better, and I really do appreciate Google improving, Android 13. Now with iOS 16, this one just came out yesterday, and I do think iOS 16 brought more to the table than Android 13. There's a few more things that iOS 16 has that I actually love. I will say Android 13, I like it a lot too. And Android 12 was a really big update. But one thing about Android 13 and iOS 16 they have in common is that they kind of drop support of their older phones year after year. We kind of already know that. Androids typically, with Pixels, these are the iPhones for Androids. These things last for a very long time, and I love that. iOS devices notoriously would last long too, but Apple did drop support of a lot of different devices right now, which is very crazy. Android 13 has dropped support for maybe like a few Pixels. The iOS 16 on the other hand dropped a lot more. Now visually, one of the biggest changes is actually with the lock screen. I will say Android 13, the lock screen, it looks great, and you can actually customize the lock screen as well. By scrolling down over here, you can click home settings and you can customize a few things with the lock screen here and there, the wallpapers and stuff. But iOS 16 has the ability of adding different types of widgets within the lock screen, which is actually really cool. That is something we don't really have on Android 13 at a high level. So holding down here, we do have the ability of adding different widgets and different cool things like that. I do think over time, Android 13 will also be able to gain some, capability that way too. But I think immediately that was one of the bigger things that kind of stood out to me. And I actually do love Apple for kind of thinking about, the lock screen in that sense. There were some other improvements too. I don't want to just hit on the lock screen for 30 minutes. One of the biggest things though that Android has pretty much had for quite a bit of time is actually with the Joy-Cons. For me personally, I love Joy-Cons. They have a lot of drifting issues, but they're compatible. And if you have your Nintendo Switch with you, there can be sometimes you want to connect a Joy-Con to your, Android device. And Androids have had the ability of connecting their Joy-Cons within them for a long period of time. I'm talking for years and years and years now. I remember making a video like in 2019 talking basically how to do that. And iPhones now with iOS 16 now have the ability of doing so. Now I'm really happy about this. I think they should have done this quite a bit of time ago, but I'm glad they've done it now rather than waiting, a longer period of time. Not only does it work for the Joy-Cons, but it also works with this, Pro controller as well. So that's another really cool thing. Now, I also want to demonstrate something else within their stock messaging applications. Within stock Android, we have, Android 13, the Google Messages application. And I think this is a great application. I think it's getting better throughout time. But surprisingly, as I mentioned before, iMessage has gotten a ton of improvements, and some things we have within iOS 16 that we don't have within Android 13 is the ability of unsending messages, deleting messages if we don't want them to be around anymore, they'll be deleted on both ends, and potentially even, this is crazy, editing messages and unreading read messages, which is crazy. Android 13 at this point, it's still kind of a work in progress. I will say Google has brought in a lot of improvements within Android 13 and just, Google Messages as a whole. They're improving the software, they're improving capability here and there, which I'm actually a fan of. I think over time it's definitely going to be getting in a much better situation than it is now. They're improving RCS and giving us interactions and reactions and everything, but I think iOS 16 takes the cake when it comes down to that specific standpoint. You're getting way more improvements within the messaging landscape within iOS 16 than within Android 13. So that was another thing that I pretty much saw. I will say also, there's been a lot of improvements within the Photos applications, or the stock Photos application within, Google Photos, I will say, and also within, and iOS, the Photos application here. We now have the ability, much similar to other devices out there, I think Samsung's have this too, of essentially copying text. I think it's still a work in progress for a lot of different devices, as you can see. Not quite the same on both, but you do have some features with the Pixel that the iPhones don't have. I think you still have in some capability like unlimited backup with certain applications and stuff, so that's really cool. But I will say with the ability of hiding your hidden photos on and videos on iOS, that's a really cool thing. I guess we don't really have that on the stock app within within Google Photos. You have live text and copying text from videos within iPhones, which you don't have on Androids either, which is another big deal. I will say the Photos application probably got one of the biggest updates on iOS 16 rather than Android 13. We also have the ability of using our iPhone as a webcam stock within our Mac devices extremely easily. And it's wireless, you don't have to connect anything. There are devices and applications that do this on Androids, but on iOS, we have that capability natively, which I think is really cool in and of itself. Now, another thing with Face ID, there's not a lot of Android phones that have a Face ID protocol. They have cameras and stuff, but certain iPhones do support Face ID in landscape mode, which is actually really cool. So I really do like that. But one thing I've been noticing with iOS 16 is that a lot of the software updates that are happening with this device pretty much are limited to the newest devices. A lot of the older devices do not get a lot of those cool features, which is actually very sad. When I look at Android 13, pretty much all the features that were supported for the most part, came on the oldest Pixels and the newest ones. So that was one thing I was really surprised about that Apple kind of did that Google didn't really do. Now, these updates, they're still coming out. They're getting better and better over time. But still, the fact that a lot of our updates, for the most part, are actually going through and bringing these features to all devices across the board, I'm actually really happy about. Unfortunately, when I look at something like, the iOS devices, like my iPhone 10, for example, there were a lot of features that did not come on that device, which I don't understand why they did that. I feel like they could have easily supported a ton of devices across the board, and they dropped support of a lot of older ones. With Androids, the thing I like about it is that there's always custom ROMs, especially for a Pixel. You can go ahead and install a custom ROM here and be set. On iPhones, you don't really have that capability, which is kind of unfortunate for a lot of people who don't necessarily, want to get rid of their iPhone, but they're not getting a lot of those cool features. I will say though, with the ecosystem that Apple has built with iOS, I think they've done a great job, and I think iOS 16 plays really, really well with watchOS, with macOS, with iPadOS, and all those other versions of software too, and I think they're going to be getting better over time, like I mentioned before. But I think as of right now, with the capability within iOS 16, if we're looking at a flagship Android 13 and a flagship iOS 16 device, I personally do think that iOS 16 probably brought more to the table than Android 13. But if we rewind back one year with iOS 15 and Android 12, I think Android 12 brought more to the table than iOS 15 at that time. So things are kind of flipping. I think the big things that they brought, like the lock screen improvements, Wi-Fi finally being able to show us the passcode just like on Android, the Joy-Con capability now, a lot of improvements with live text and with the Photos application. A lot of different improvements like that really, really make me happy. But Android still has a few things up its sleeve too. One thing Android has that I always love is the ability of updating your applications through the App Store and stock applications. So if Google Chrome has an update, you don't have to update your whole entire phone, you can just update Chrome. On iOS, we still don't have the ability of updating specific applications. We have to update our whole entire operating system, which I never really liked. If iMessage had a bug, they have to release a whole new software version in order to fix it. I like it on some hands I don't, but ultimately when it kind of comes down to it, both of these are still in their infancy. Android 13 probably will get released first, or when the Pixel 7s come out, whenever that happens, I think later this fall. I do think as of right now, iOS 16 is probably my preferred one. I think they brought more to the table, and I'm a little bit more happier with iOS 16. I think Android 13 did a really good, they stuck to their core, they improved on Android as a whole. They didn't really do anything out of the ordinary, which I like, but I wish they kind of brought a little bit more, to the table. iOS 16, on the other hand, they brought a lot. Unfortunately, they cut a lot on not only older iPhones like the iPhone 7s, but they cut a lot of iOS 16 features on the other iPhones like the iPhone 10s. So that kind of covers up my thoughts on it. If you have any other questions or thoughts, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.